So you're here because you have a fear, but not just any fear, specifically the fear of roller coasters, whether it be its inversions where you go upside down or its sheer height. So I'm going to tell you how to cure it. And of course, in this video I will use examples from two popular UK theme parks in the form of Blackpool Pleasure Beach and Alton Towers. So for step one, you need to first understand the origin of your fear. So you might be afraid of the actual height of the roller coaster, such as King Dakar, which is over 400 feet tall and happens to be the tallest in the world, and that is called acrophobia, the fear of heights. You might also be afraid of the restraints or the lack of restraints, which plays into a lack of trust in safety, and also claustrophobia, which is a fear of tight spaces or being restrained. You might also be afraid of the side effects of roller coasters, such as dizziness or nausea, or even just the plain fear of nausea itself, which is called emetophobia. So of course all of these three contribute to the fear of roller coasters, though you might not necessarily have all of them contributing to it, but some will be more dominant than others, and of course this allows you to understand how to control your fear as well. So for one of the options, which is step 2, you should start small on things. So for this I'm going to use two examples, which of course will be Blackpool Pleasure Beach and Alton Towers. So of course you don't actually have to start off with roller coasters because you can just be afraid of rides in general. And if you start with flat rides, such as the Nickelodeon Land feature of Diego's Treetop Adventure, then of course you can control your fear of heights, as it does go relatively high up, and also you can spin around in it, which can get you over your fear of ride dizziness and also nausea. And of course the restraints are very lax on this ride as well, so if you are afraid of lack of restraint, then of course this is a great one. But also if you do have a fear of spinning and also heights, then maybe Avatar Airbender, which is a disco coaster, would be a great option too, as it sits you on a spinning disc which basically goes up and down and spins, and your restraint is only on your back, which would also play into the restraint fear, because of course it is very tight, especially when it first comes on, and sometimes if you do pull a bit it can come a little bit loose, but you will still of course be restrained. Then of course you can move on to smaller roller coasters, such as Nickelodeon Streak or Blue Fly, which are two gentle wooden roller coasters that younger children and families often enjoy, but don't worry about the age demographic because of course everyone has their different tolerances of rides. And then you can move to the bobsled coaster in the form of Avalanche, or even higher into Revolution or Icon, and then eventually to the big one, the 213-foot British icon of a roller coaster. But for Alton Towers, if you're more focused on the roller coaster side of things, as oftentimes Alton Towers lacks in its flat ride offering, you can of course start on the Octonauts coaster, which is in CBeebies Land, and don't just judge it based on the fact that it's aimed at children, because of course if you are scared of roller coasters, then this will probably offer a more intense experience for you, because everyone has different tolerances to G-force and also the idea of roller coasters in of itself. And then of course you can move to family friendly roller coasters such as Spinball Whizzer, which is taller and spins, so then you can get over multiple of these contributing fears to coasterphobia. And then of course you can move up to things like Wicker Man and then Oblivion or Nemesis and Rita, and eventually you'll be able to tackle it to the point where those rides that you went on before seem babyish and you don't really feel anything on them, and you build up a form of immunity to them. And of course this means that you can then enjoy roller coasters without the element of fear to it. So for step number 3, you need to understand your safety, and let's look into some of the statistics about ride safety and park safety in general. So for the chances of death, you have a 1 in 300 million chance of dying on a roller coaster, which is incredibly slim, and not to mention this is spread over a long time period, so that's not even in a day or a month or a year, it's in possibly even a decade. So then you have ride injury, which is 1 in 24 million, and this can be any form of injury really. If you maybe got a scrape on a ride because something flew at you, such as a rock, or it can even be an injury from another guest on the ride, such as a cat flying back and it hitting you in the head and you felt a little bit dizzy afterwards. But the largest chance of injury at a park is actually from other guests and the park itself, as in you might trip over and and fall down a flight of stairs and then break a bone. You have more chance of breaking a bone than breaking a bone on a ride. So, of course, you actually have more of a chance of crashing your car on the way to the theme park than actually any of the theme park really itself. So, of course, you're more likely to be attacked by another guest, really, than the ride. So, of course, theme parks are incredibly safe, and there is actually a reason for this. There are a few rules in place that mean that you are completely protected, as neglect of guest safety is in fact illegal, which is why rigorous testing happens every single day and every single morning. And of course, if there is any suspicious activity within a ride that potentially threatens guest safety, then they will of course close it and test it over and over again. And you'll often see this in the two parks I've mentioned, where they will close it due to rain or due to wind speed, and then test it to make sure it's all safe. And with launch coasters, they do rollback tests to make sure the launches are working. And then for some of the seatbelt information, because you'll often find these implemented more on coasters, such as Icon, which very recently actually got a seatbelt on it. But of course, this isn't actually a safety measure, it's more of a fail-safe for anxiety, because a restraint is a lot heavier than a simple seatbelt. And of course, these seatbelts you'll find in things like aeroplanes or even cars, and we all know that cars are not built to spin around and go massive speeds up and down, so these seatbelts aren't necessarily going to do very much against the restraint, of course. And it doesn't really matter if it's loose, it doesn't have to be fully tight unless the actual restraint bar is very loose itself, which is often found on wooden roller coasters, so that's when you do really need a seatbelt to keep yourself down, especially during times of airtime. And also, if the seatbelt comes undone, don't panic. It's happened a few times on Oblivion where people have either unbuckled the friend's seatbelt or it's come undone itself. Do not worry, because of course it's completely safe and it's fine. Of course, there is a danger that someone might get injured by the seatbelt flailing around, but there's no risk to the restraint coming undone. It's not held down by the seatbelt, it's held in by what's called a pin and lock sort of system. And then, of course, don't worry about the history of the theme park. That doesn't matter at all. Of course, the Smiler is now 100% safe, and it tests so much, it's unbelievable. So don't worry if you're afraid about going on the Smiler at Alton Towers. It's completely safe. And of course, if you do choose to go on it, I hope you have a good time whenever it reopens, because, you know, it's missing a part at the minute. But of course, you can go on it, it's completely safe, and no injury is really likely to happen again whatsoever, and you've seen the odds, so, you know, there's a very small chance of lightning striking twice. So then for step number 4, you need to adopt a can-do attitude. So you should probably use this list. It helps a lot with when I go to theme parks with my friends. So number 1 is to take some deep breaths. Of course, calming yourself down, lowering your heart rate so then you don't panic or pass out during the ride experience. For number 2, you then need to remember that it is adrenaline that's making you scared. It's a new experience and your brain cannot really associate whether or not you should fight the ride or fly away from it in regards to your flight and fright response. So of course your brain is trying to decipher whether or not it's a threat to you or if you're actually meant to enjoy it. And of course you are meant to enjoy it, and I'm sure you will. Then you need to look at all the people that are having fun. If people are screaming in terror and they hate it, and people are crying and screaming to get off, maybe they're a bit scared like you, or maybe, you know, that's just a one-off. And of course then it might be a bit of a warning sign that you too might not enjoy it. But most of the time you'll see people laughing and screaming, you know, with joy in order to, you know, like get out that emotion, because it's quite intense, just the raw emotion, never mind the G-forces. For number 4, you should probably look around you. Are they younger? Are they older? And if everyone else is older, then you could be a role model to other people to show that you can do this. And of course, if people are younger, you should think, well, if they can tolerate this, then maybe I'll have more fun than them. Maybe I'll, you know, have a good experience similar to them. For number 5, you should probably think when you'll next get to ride the coaster, because of course you don't go to a theme park every single day of the week, so you should really think about when the next opportunity to go on this is, and then decide, I should probably do this now. And then for number 6, you should just get in the queue, just say, oh well, let's do it. And then for number 7, you should just have fun. Believe in yourself, because afterwards you'll probably think, oh, maybe I should do this again. And then look at the queue and think, maybe not. And yeah, that's really, all you have to do in order to get on a ride. Just do it. And even if you are massively afraid and you're fighting with yourself, just think about it. Just do it. Don't overthink the fact that the coaster's fast or it's got inversions or anything to do with that. Just think, do I want to go on it? Do I really not? And that's all you really need to do. And yeah, that's really it for this video, guys. I've really enjoyed making this. I do hope that for some of you guys, this is going to really help you when you next go to a theme park. You might be going tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And it's always good to prepare yourself because, of course, no one wants to miss out on things when they go to a theme park and watch their family members or group members go off and have fun on all these rides. And I really do hope you've enjoyed this video. Of course, if you have, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, any suggestions or any thank you notes, and also make sure to subscribe as well for more content similar to this. And yeah, that's really it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This was just